This is our process for any incoming leads. Let's say we do direct mail, we get a lead coming in. The first thing is, did we answer the call or not? If we did not answer the call, we're putting them on an automated drip sequence. So the automated drip sequence would be, they get a quick text from us. Hey, sorry, we missed your call. Let us know your name and address of the property, and we'll call you back. And then it'll just, if you don't hear back from them, the drip goes on with a reminder for my lead manager to call them and, get information from them. The idea with this initial drip campaign is just to see if we can just get the property information. That's the number one goal with this specific drip campaign, is just to be able to get the information about the owner and the property address and see, if we can qualify the lead. So that's the purpose of it. Again, because we don't have their name and we don't have their address available. When you sign up for Simply, you should already have a drip campaign set up in your account, and then you can just start using that. Again, it's just, hey, sorry, we missed your call. Would love to connect with you. Would love to learn more, find out about your name and address of the property. And then in that drip sequence, we also have a step. If you have skip trace your properties and have skip trace information within Simply, then the cool thing that would happen is if it's going to match that phone number with other properties that you have, other skip trace properties that you have, and it'll fill up the name and address of the property. So if you get a missed call from a phone number and you don't have any information, but that phone number matches with another property in list stacking, it's going to show you, hey, one match found for this phone number. So you can copy over the name and address from list stacking, and then you can personalize your drip sequence at that point. So that's the first thing that's happening. And then if we do answer the call, then of course, we're going to go through the call details and then, go through the call and see if they're interested in selling or not. If you get a call from a seller, just says, hey, I got your postcard or I got your letter, but I don't want to sell for whatever reason. And then we know for sure that it is a true dead lead. Then we move them over to a dead lead. If they say, hey, I don't want to sell right now, but then, maybe I would be interested in 6 months or a year, then that's not a dead lead. Then we want to put them on a different drip sequence. But if they say, hey, I don't want to sell the property under no circumstances, or if they're asking ridiculous money where the property is worth 100,000 and they have a loan of 100,000, then it doesn't make sense for us. We're not doing any short sales, so we move them over to dead lead in our business. And then after that, we're checking like if we connect with the seller, they're interested in selling their property, did they provide us the address of that property? If they did, the next thing is to run comps on that property. We have an update coming to Simply. We have it coming to list stacking on Saturday, and I'll give you a quick preview of the updates that we have coming. It'll show you pretty good comps or pretty good estimated value on the property. I've tested in my market, and it's pretty on par. I would say it's like within 5 to 7% of the actual value. So that's going to make getting the estimated value super simple. So that's the next thing we do is once we have the address, we work with a local agent because most of the properties we're selling are either listing on the market. But right now, majority of the ones that we're selling are going on the market. So we have an agent that we work with. We would ask the agent to run the comps for us and provide us an estimated value if it's a neighborhood that we're not familiar with. But if we're doing turnkey, we pretty much know how much we can sell the property for. It's pretty simple for us. Whatever we're going to rent the property for times 100 is pretty much our sales price in most cases. So if we're going to rent a property for $1,000 a month, then we're selling it for $100,000. If we're going to rent it for $1,500, it's usually about $150,000. Some cases, it may be a little bit higher or lower, but for the most part, it's whatever our rental value is, monthly rent, times $1,000 is how much we're selling the property for. All right. Then after that, we're asking if we can get the mortgage amount. Again, we'll have an update coming to Simply to the leads part next month, where you will automatically have the mortgage information, but we'll still verify the mortgage information if the mortgage is more than 80% of the ARV. So let's say if the property is worth $100,000 and the mortgage the seller has is $80,000 or more, in that case, then we're kicking that listing, or we're kicking that property over to our agent as a listing opportunity. Again, we don't want to go in short sale. At that point, it doesn't make sense for us to get involved because there's no money for us to make. So that's our criteria. It might be different for you guys, depending. I know some of you guys are doing short sales and some other really creative stuff, like novation stuff. We don't do any of that. So for us, if the mortgage is more than 80% of the ARV, we're simply kicking it over to the agent that we work with. And then, we then at that point, we also have an agent referred rep. It's basically something internally for us to check with the agent every month or so. Hey, did anything happen with that lead or not? If it did, then we can follow up on the next steps of that specific lead. So that's our internal process. If the mortgage is less than 80% of the ARV, then we're following up with the lead further and taking it to the next qualification step. Then for us, the lead qualification is why are they looking to sell the property? If the qualification reason is, hey, I just want to see how much are you offering on the property, then they don't have motivation at that point. What is the condition of the property? If the more work the house needs, the better qualified that lead is. If the house is in good condition, everything that needs to be done to the house, like bathroom, kitchen, that's already been done, then there's really not much value we're adding to the property. In that case, at least in our experience, we've noticed the lead would probably go the route of listing with an agent. And then how soon are they looking to sell the house? For us, we want to see at least no more than 30 to 60 days, I should say. If they're past 30 to 60 days, at that point, we're putting them on a drip. If someone says, yeah, I'm ready to sell, yes, I want to sell, but not right now, maybe, end of the summer, for example. At that point, like we're not negotiating with that seller. We'll just put them on a drip and follow up with that seller every month just to check in and see how it's going. And then just letting them know, hey, we're still interested in buying your property. Price, of course, we want to find out about the price on the property. If, again, going back to the example, if the house is worth 100,000 and they want, no less than 90,000, for example, or 100,000, then there's no point of, doing a deal on that property. Then if they're really firm on the price for whatever reason, then we want to move on from that. But if the reason they want 90,000 or 100,000 is because that's the house next door, that's how much it's sold for, then we want to dig in a little bit deeper, the condition of the house. We still want to make an offer if the mortgage numbers make sense. If the house is worth 100,000, they don't have any mortgage, but they still want 90,000, we'll still make an offer and then put them on a follow-up sequence of offer made, offer rejected, whatever, and then follow up with them. If there's any other situations, is the next thing we want to find out. The person that we're negotiating with, does that person have the authority to sell the property? Yes or no? If no, then we really want to be negotiating with the person who has the signing authority on that property. We have a property where the seller has verbally accepted our offer. However, the property is going through a probate. So we have it under offer made, and then we're just following up with the seller every month. The seller is working with an attorney in that case. But if you had every other condition that you have, a qualification criteria that you have with the seller actually met, however, the person that you're negotiating with, it's not the actual seller of the property, then there's no point. So you want to make sure the person that you're actually speaking with is has the authority to sell the property. It happens far more often than you would like to see, but you want to make sure that you check that. Is the lead qualified? If yes, if after all the criteria, if the lead is qualified for us in our business, because we're doing fix and flip, we have pretty big flips going on. We just closed on a property today for $52,000, and it's going to need about $75,000 to $80,000 worth of work in it, and it's worth about $250,000 to $300,000. So for us, we're doing some pretty big rehab. So we go in personally on every single property that we're buying. We will go on and visit the property. So our contractors will go look at the property, give us an estimate. So an appointment is the next step of once the lead is qualified. We're not making an offer. We're actually going on an appointment to make sure. Or if we do make an offer, then it's always contingent on an inspection. We'll never buy without actually looking at the property. In some case, if the seller just wants to hit an offer, we'll throw an offer out, but we'll tell them it's contingent on us looking at the property. So because, for us, we're doing rehab. But some of you guys who are just wholesaling and doing virtual, we have investors that are in multiple markets. In that case, of course, if you don't have the boots on the ground to go look at every property, then you just adjust your numbers accordingly and ask for pictures from the seller, especially of the kitchen, bathroom, roof, or exterior of the house, and then make an offer on that. And if the lead is not qualified, but we think, based on this, if the lead is qualified, then we set up an appointment. However, if the lead is not qualified, but we think in future it could be qualified because, maybe because of the timeline, the seller doesn't want to sell right now, but want to sell in 6 months, then we put them on a long-term follow-up sequence. However, if after we go through the lead, if they're not qualified and we don't think the lead will be qualified in the future also, then we move it to a dead lead. The example would be if the seller has a mortgage of more than 80% of the value of the house. In that case, it doesn't make sense for us to keep following up. Then we'll just move it to a dead lead, or we'll just refer it to an agent if the seller was interested in it. So that's kind of what our process is. And then for us in our business, the most important role of a lead manager is to make as many qualified appointments as possible. So if there's one KPI that we want to hold our lead manager accountable for, it is to set as many qualified appointments as possible for our acquisition person. We don't have an acquisition person in our business. So my business setup is, I live in California, my project manager lives in California, an hour north of where I live. And then my lead manager now is in Philippines. So we don't actually have an acquisition manager. So my lead manager also fills in the role of acquisition manager. But we have our contractors are the ones that are going and looking at the property. They take pictures, they share pictures with us, and they give us an estimate. So there's nobody from our team, our company that's really going. It's only the contractors that are going. So just keep that in mind. But the role of a lead manager should be to get as many qualified appointments as they possibly can get for the next person on your team, which would be the acquisition manager. Again, you can have the same person in two different roles, but you want to separate them to have correct KPIs for each person on your team.